Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Chèvalier, where we are here to help men and women find happy, healthy, and long-term relationships. And like always, guys, it doesn't matter whether you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Puerto Rican, South American, or even the penguins in Antarctica. Even the penguins in Antarctica want to be loved and appreciated, and I think that in order to help men get to a point where they can find the relationships they're looking for, I think and feel, even though men shouldn't really use the word feel very often, I feel very strongly about this, that I should start from the very beginning of helping men understand what they need to be in a position to find the relationships they're looking for, and then help them grow based on those needs, their expectations, reality, and what's available out here for guys that are looking for love. The number one thing that I always tell men is that women are not the enemy. Yes, we get rejected a lot. As I've said before, a guy will be rejected 9 times out of 10 before he meets that 1 out of 10 woman that finally says yes. And I know that for a lot of us guys, we get the idea that dating is easy for women because they have certain I'll just use the term renewable resources that makes dating easy for them. So sometimes as men we bear strong resentment because dating is a lot tougher for men than it is women. I've heard women say, oh, dating is hard for me, but that's because, in lack of better words, a lot of you women unfortunately and sadly make inept decisions that afford you some of the unfortunate situations that you get into. In other words, your bad decisions are why a lot of you guys can't find anything worth anything. But for you men, in most cases, in a lot of cases that the world is unaware of, a lot of you guys can't find anyone because it's just difficult. A woman had, you hear a lot about, 9 out of 10 women, and there are so many women in Atlanta, and all these women, but at the end of the day, a woman has to be interested in you in order for her to want to date you. And, God has blessed me to be an established chevalier at this point in life, but at one point I had little to nothing, and dating was almost non-existent. Because for most guys, we miss out on the most important assets between 18 to 24 that women generally tend to have. And because of that, dating is difficult. If you don't look a certain way, if you don't act a certain way, or if you, like myself, who grew up more intelligent than everybody around me, grew up a geek, a nerd, in the anime, or all the above, you definitely was hurting in the dating arena. Because especially in the ethnic communities, some women prefer guys who are rough and rugged, and they look, I'll say urban, for lack of better fairness. And so if you didn't fit this urban description of the saggy pants and the gold teeth and the, and the Jordans and the graphic T-shirts and talk in a certain manner, women of certain ethnic groups were not attracted to you. For me, for instance, when I was back in college and I met my significant other, I wore suit and ties to school every day. 3-piece suits, 2-piece suits. I tell people, I didn't just start dressing like this now. I've been dressing like this my whole life. And it was a different feel because a lot of women are not used to seeing guys who were in their 20s wear suits and ties. They're not used to the guys in their 20s wearing 3-piece suits unless they're going to church or as a normal wear. They're not used to guys being geeks and nerds and being smart and wanting to have intellectual conversations. And I think, unfortunately, because a lot of us who were geeks, who were nerds, who were considered losers in school, we didn't have the opportunities to meet women who were interested in us, who wanted to date us, who wanted to be with us. And I think because of that, we developed a sense of, and I probably shouldn't use this word, but I'm just going to be honest, we developed a sense of hatred for women. I would be honestly said that's where a lot of the hatred for women comes from. because they're able to get all this attention and all these people want them and everybody wants to talk to them and their phones are full of 100 million contacts, and as a guy you work your whole goddamn entity and you still can't even get nobody to even be interested in you. And so because nobody's interested in you, you're angry, you're suffering from loneliness, from depression, and it makes you even more angry because no one cares that you're suffering from this loneliness and from your depression. It's bad enough to be suffering from this loneliness and depression by yourself. It's even worse if nobody cares. So not only do you have a lot of young men, whether you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Puerto Rican, South American, Australian, who are suffering some of the worst mental health degradations a man can suffer, which is to be alone, to be single, not by choice, but you have to suffer through these degradations alone, and no one caring. If you died right then and there, nobody would miss you. Nobody calls you on a Saturday afternoon. Nobody wants to see you on a Friday night. Nobody cares if what you're doing Saturday evening, and you spend so much time suffering, and more importantly and sadly suffering alone, that you have no one to bear this pain with. So like most men, you keep it inside. You don't tell anybody that you're going through this, that you're suffering through this, that you're bearing all this weight on your own, and it just festers into more and more hatred. And this is where you get a lot of guys who, like myself at one point, before I met the woman I would eventually spend pretty much my whole entire adult life with, festering this dislike for women and this hatred for women that causes men to treat women the way they do. Like every other guy, I've been through that situation where you find a woman you love and you give her everything and she becomes your god, and to the point where she notices it, and instead of appreciating that you are overly in love with her, she takes advantage of it and just run you into the ground. And then you get ran into the ground to the point where that fosters even more hatred, because you've been through a point where you're tired of being hurt. I mean, you spent your whole entire life trying to meet one woman who would give you a chance. And then when you finally meet a woman who gives you a chance, she ends up treating you really horrible. She ends up being mean to you. She ends up taking advantage of your kindness. So it's almost like you did all this for nothing. But gentlemen, as we go forward in this brand new chapter of Chèvalier, I'm spending this first segment to say, I understand your suffering. I understand your loneliness. I understand your depression. I understand what you're doing in the midst of that loneliness and depression. I know who you're talking to. I'm talking to you. I know who you're talking to while you're going through this loneliness and depression. I know who they are. I know what's going on. You ain't suffering in silence, and you dang sure are not suffering alone anymore. This is a brand new chapter of Chèvalier, and I'm going to focus 100% on the men who are looking for happy and healthy relationships. Now, have we been doing that before? Absolutely. But in this angle, I'm focusing solely on the guys. I'm going to get you guys off the couch, off the computer, off your phone, and spending more time trying to meet the type of women you want, so you can spend more time in a relationship and less time feeling sad or depressed, especially on beautiful days like today. So guys, the number one thing we're going to focus on is knowing that you ain't alone. You're not doing this by yourself. We're going to go on this journey together. And we're going to start from the ground level. Some things you may agree with, some things you may not agree with. The things you agree with, hang with me. And things you don't agree with, then let's have that discussion so other men can hear what your transgressions are, and let's try to build a community of men who are looking for happy, healthy, and long-term relationships. And no matter whether you know the spiel. But I think at the end of the day, my number one thing is to say that this is the start of a journey that's going to help you. And I don't care if I get 2 views and one of them is my grandmother. As long as I can help the type of guys who are going through this journey and feel like they're suffering alone come out of this suffering, then I will feel like this was all worth it. So until next time, peace. My brothers, we are gone.